Caitlin Clark did not just score 29 points against Dallas. She turned a close game into another reminder that the WNBA's record book is starting to look strangely familiar every time Indiana wins. 29 points, 10 assists, 11 made shots on 18 attempts, another high-level, scoring and playmaking performance, another game where Clark controlled the pace without needing to dominate every possession, and another night where a statistic she already owns moved even farther away from the rest of the league. But the most important part of Indiana's 98-87 win over the Dallas Wings was not one highlight or one record graphic. It was how Clark changed the game when Dallas had already proven it could make the Fever uncomfortable. The Wings led 37-35 at halftime. They led 66-63 after 3 quarters. Paige Bueckers finished with 29 points of her own. Dallas was shorthanded, but it was not passive. It defended, competed, and forced Indiana into a real fourth-quarter problem. Then the Fever scored 35 points in the final 10 minutes. That is where this game became more than another Clark highlight reel. Indiana needed its best guard to create. It needed Kelsey Mitchell to keep the defense stretched. It needed the supporting cast to finish possessions, and it needed Clark to do what she has been doing at a historically unusual rate since entering the league: score at an elite level while also controlling where everybody else's shots come from. That combination is the record story. The supplied highlight breakdown points to Clark's growing total of games with at least 25 points and 10 assists. Earlier reporting had already established that she owns the WNBA record in that category. And this Dallas performance extended the standard again. That distinction matters. Clark is no longer chasing the record. She is moving it. And that is why 29 and 10 cannot be treated like a normal box score. Most high-scoring guards face a trade-off. If they are hunting points, they spend more possessions finishing. WNBA Sports News script, voiceover ready, page 3. If they are creating for teammates, they spend more possessions passing. Clark compresses those jobs into the same possession. She can come off a screen looking like a scorer, force the big defender to step up, and then deliver a pass behind the coverage. She can attack the paint, draw help, and turn a drive into an open corner 3. She can reject the screen, get 2 feet into the lane, and find the roller. And if the defense decides to stay home on the other 4 players, she can simply take the shot herself. That is why the 25-point 10-assist category is so useful. It does not reward one-dimensional volume. It measures the ability to create a lot of your own offense without stopping the offense from functioning for everyone else. Clark keeps doing both. Dallas learned that in layers. Early in the game, the Wings did a good job preventing Indiana from getting comfortable. Clark attacked, but the Fever did not immediately turn those attacks into separation. She got downhill. She used shot fakes. She attacked Paige Bueckers in individual matchups. She created passing windows for Aliyah Boston and cutters behind the defense. But Dallas stayed attached. That is one reason the game remained close through 3 quarters. The Wings did not need to shut Clark down. They only needed to make Indiana work, and for 30 minutes that was enough. Paige Bueckers made sure the pressure stayed on the other end. Both stars scored 29, but Indiana had more answers when the game reached winning time. Clark's ability to create those answers was the difference. The first thing that stands out on the highlights is how often she refused to settle for the first available 3. That is an important development in her game. Everybody knows the logo range shots. Defenders know them too. WNBA Sports News script, voiceover ready, page 4. So when Clark catches with space beyond the arc, the defense is trained to react immediately. That reaction becomes a weapon. She can shot fake, get the defender leaning forward, and attack the lane. Several of her best scoring possessions against Dallas came from that exact idea. The threat of the 3 created the drive. The drive created a finish or another rotation. And that is a much harder version of Clark to defend than a player who simply takes 12 difficult threes and hopes enough of them fall. Her mid-range work mattered too. A step back from inside the arc will never go as viral as a 30-foot 3, but playoff defenses care about it. If a defense can run Clark off the line and know she will only drive all the way to the rim, the coverage becomes easier to predict. If she can stop at 12 or 15 feet, use footwork, and score before the second defender arrives, the entire geometry changes. Dallas saw some of that. Kelsey Mitchell deserves a major part of the story. The highlight transcript frames Clark as the only reason Indiana won. That goes too far. Clark was the central creator, but Indiana does not score 35 points in the fourth quarter without multiple players applying pressure. Mitchell finished with 23 points and continued a scoring streak that has become one of the biggest stories of Indiana's season. Her value next to Clark is simple. Defenses cannot overload one side of the floor. If Clark is trapped, Mitchell becomes the next attacker. If Mitchell gets the favorable matchup, Indiana does not need to wait for Clark to come back and restart the possession. The attack can continue immediately. That is what creates continuity, and continuity is what separates a talented offense from a great one. WNBA Sports News script, voiceover ready, page 5. Dallas could survive the first action. It could survive Clark coming off the screen. What became harder was surviving the second and third action after the ball moved. Mitchell attacks, Boston seals, a shooter lifts from the corner, Clark relocates. Now the defense has to communicate again. That repeated decision-making is exhausting. By the fourth quarter, Indiana began winning those decisions more consistently. That is how a 3-point deficit after 30 minutes turned into an 11-point win. The Fever did not need a miracle shot. They won the quarter 35-21. That is domination through accumulation. A drive here, a transition basket there, a three after the defense collapses, a Mitchell finish, a Clark pull-up, another assist. Suddenly the game is gone. That type of finish matters for Indiana's postseason outlook. The Fever have spent much of this season proving they can score. The harder question is whether they can solve good teams late in close games when the first option is taken away. Dallas gave them that test. The Wings were missing important players, so this was not a full-strength championship-level opponent. That context should not be ignored. But a short-handed team can still expose weaknesses. Dallas did exactly that for 3 quarters. It slowed Indiana enough to lead at halftime. It recovered from Indiana's third quarter push. It entered the fourth with the advantage. Then Indiana adjusted. That is the encouraging part. Clark's growth is also visible in how she used the one-on-one matchup with Bueckers. The game contained moments where they were directly involved in the same possession. Clark spun into space. She drove. She used footwork. She attacked the rim. Bueckers responded on the other end with her own scoring. Those possessions are perfect for highlight packages because they create the feeling of a duel. But the real advantage Clark created was not simply winning one-on-one. It was forcing Dallas to change how the other 4 defenders behaved. That is the difference between scoring and offensive control. A scorer beats the defender in front of her. A creator changes what the whole defense is allowed to do. Clark can be both. That is why the records keep arriving. The WNBA has had great scorers. It has had great point guards. It has had guards who can do both. But the frequency with which Clark combines high scoring with double-digit assists is what separates this particular statistical profile. The record is not built on one extraordinary night. It is built on repetition. That is the part people sometimes miss when a new record becomes another graphic on social media. Well into double-digit games in the same rare category requires a repeatable system. The player has to be able to reach that level against different defenses, different personnel, different game, scripts, and different physical conditions. Clark has now done it across multiple seasons. That means the question changes. Instead of asking whether she can keep doing it, the more interesting question is how far the record can move before the rest of the league catches up. There is no obvious answer. She is still early in her career. Her teammates are improving around her. Indiana's offense is becoming more balanced. And, strangely, that balance may actually make it easier for Clark to produce more high-assist games. When Mitchell is scoring, defenders cannot cheat as aggressively. When Boston is finishing, the pick-and-roll becomes more dangerous. When secondary shooters hit open threes, Clark's passes turn into assists at a higher rate. A great passer still needs teammates to finish the play. Indiana is giving Clark more finishers. That creates the possibility that her raw assist numbers can rise even while she handles the ball less obsessively. That is a sign of a healthier offense. Paige had an excellent night. 29 points on 11 for 21 shooting while Dallas was missing key rotation players is serious production. She kept the Wings competitive for most of the game. She did not disappear when Indiana made runs. She looked comfortable playing in the same spotlight that follows Clark everywhere. That is good for the league. The WNBA does not need every young star to be reduced to an enemy of another young star. It needs great players producing great games at the same time. Clark versus Bueckers can become a marquee matchup without becoming a fabricated personal feud. Friday gave the league exactly that, a scoring duel, different styles, a close game, a meaningful fourth quarter, one team pulling away late. That is enough, no fake beef required. And there is something else worth noticing about Clark's 11 for 18 shooting. Efficiency matters. A 29-point game can be created through volume. Take enough shots, get to the line, and eventually the total gets there. Clark did not need that kind of night. 11 makes on 18 attempts means she converted more than 60% of her field goal attempts. That changes the value of every possession. If the defense is sending extra attention and the star is still scoring efficiently, the coverage is failing twice. It is giving up points and opening opportunities for teammates. That is the nightmare scenario. The defense wants one of those outcomes, not both. It can live with a star scoring 29 if it forces 30 difficult shots. It can live with 10 assists if the star barely looks at the rim. What is hard to survive is 29 on efficient shooting plus 10 assists. That is why the category is rare, and that is why Clark owns it. Indiana still has work to do. Its defense has had inconsistent stretches. Turnovers can still become a problem. Clark can still be pressured into rushed possessions. The Fever can still become too dependent on shot making. One big fourth quarter does not erase those issues. But Friday showed the ceiling. Dallas led after 3 quarters and still lost by 11. Clark and Bueckers both scored 29, but Indiana's offense had the stronger final gear. Mitchell gave Clark another elite scorer beside her. The supporting cast gave the defense more places to worry about. And Clark controlled the game without reducing it to a one-woman show. That is the most important correction to the supplied commentary. She was not the only reason Indiana won. She was the reason the entire offense made sense. There is a difference. Being the only reason means the other players did not matter. Being the organizing force means the other players mattered more because of what she created. That is the real value of a superstar point guard. She does not just add her own production. She changes the efficiency of everybody else's production. That is what the 10 assists represent. That is what the driving lanes represent. That is what the defensive attention represents. And that is why even a 29-point game can undersell the impact. The Fever moved to 22-12 with the win. That puts every one of these record performances into a more serious context. Records on a losing team are interesting. Records on a contender become threatening. Indiana is not collecting statistics while waiting for the future anymore. The Fever are trying to turn this version of Clark into postseason wins. That means every record graphic eventually leads to the same question. Can it translate? Can 29 and 10 become a playoff formula? Can Mitchell's scoring streak survive targeted defensive coverage? Can Boston punish switching? Can Indiana defend well enough when opponents slow the game down? Can the Fever execute the fourth quarter against teams healthier and deeper than Dallas was on Friday? Those are the questions that matter next, but the answer Friday was clear. When Dallas had the lead late, Indiana had more offensive answers. Clark was the center of them. She scored from multiple levels. She created for teammates. She defended with activity. She pushed the pace. She attacked Bueckers when the matchup presented itself. And she extended another historical category that already belongs to her. She is not breaking one type of record. She keeps creating new versions of the same problem for the record book. Most points with assists, most games with a certain combination, fastest to reach a threshold, most double-doubles by a guard at a certain stage. The exact category changes, the pattern does not. And the scary part for the rest of the league is that Indiana is getting better around her. A more complete team means Clark does not have to force history. History can happen naturally inside winning basketball. That may be the biggest difference between this version of the Fever and the team Clark joined. At the beginning, every extraordinary performance felt like survival. Now some of them feel like structure. 29 points, 10 assists, efficient shooting, a fourth quarter comeback, another win, another record extension. That is not one player trying to rescue a broken offense. That is a contender learning how to use one of the league's most unusual offensive engines. Dallas saw both sides of it. For 3 quarters, the Wings made Indiana uncomfortable. For 1 quarter, Indiana showed what happens when all the pressure points connect at the same time. The final score was 98-87. Clark and Bueckers both had 29. But only one offense finished the night looking more dangerous than it started, and that is why this game matters beyond the highlights. Caitlin Clark did not need a career high. She did not need 40 points. She did not need 20 assists. She only needed another version of something she has already made historic: high-level scoring, double-digit playmaking, winning basketball. The record book will keep counting. The rest of the league has to figure out how to stop it.